Hey everyone, it's Aesah, and welcome to my guide on the cost of contesting units. Contesting units means looking for the same units as another player in your game. Ideally, you're playing an uncontested comp, which means no one else is looking for the units that you're looking for. For example, if you're playing reroll Kaisa, you're really hoping there's as few duelist players as possible, since they'll usually hold Kaisa. Normally, no one else does, and normally no one holds Darius, so that's kind of nice. But if there's another player looking to reroll Kaisa in your lobby, that's very, very bad. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk about some costs. So first of all, let's just look at data for this. For playing a standard level 8 board contested, like Star Guardian, for example, for each player who is contesting you, your average placement will go down by about 0.3. Star Guardian is such a strong comp that playing it one way contested is actually completely fine because you can see the average placement. There's an average of 1 per lobby and it's averaging a 4. So even if you're playing it contested, it's still doing very, very well. Compared to being uncontested, your average placement will be about zero point 0.3 placements worse. So if you're playing it three-way contested, it becomes not that great. It's still playable. The average placement would probably be around like 4.6. It's very shaky because this is already based on an average of it being contested sometimes and not contested sometimes. But with an average of 1, I think it's pretty reasonable to say like most of the time it's like around a little bit more than like being sorry. It's generally uncontested most of the time. But if you're playing three-way contested, you drop down to about a B tier comp, which is absolutely fine, just because this comp is so good. But ideally, you want to play it like one-way contested because, as you can see from a B tier comp, you have quite a lot of other options if you're not locked into your board. So yeah, Star Guardian and Yumi definitely strong enough. But if you look at kind of a comp that's not so S tier to begin with, maybe like Duelist Ashe, even though AesahTFT is listing it as S tier, or Soul Fighter Samira. If you are contesting this with one other player, again, that's looking like a B tier comp, a 4.6. However, if you're contesting it with two other players, it actually becomes quite bad. This becomes somewhere around like 4.9. So if you go down here, it's kind of in the realm of some really questionable things like Sniper Jinx Leona, um, just like Edgelord Volibear, Bastion Smolder. Just like some pretty questionable comps down here. Six Juggernaut Ashe. So you really want to avoid playing multi-way contested for these comps that are not the S tiers. Star Guardian and Jinx, again, like four-way contested would fall down to that. So you really, really, really want to avoid that. Sometimes if you take like a Star Guardian emblem on 2-1, you can't really control what the other players in your lobby are doing. So if it ends up being looking like it's about to be four-way contested, but you are already committed for whatever reason, maybe you have the Star Guardian augment, Power of Friendship. In that case, I would generally still just stay the course because kind of sacrificing an entire gold augment is very detrimental as well. It's even more detrimental. So generally would just stay the course in that case. Again, it can be frustrating when other players contest you when you're already committed to a comp, but it is what it is. Just keep in mind that sometimes, yes, you will lose games to that, but if you are actively scouting and trying to choose uncontested lines, you're actually much more frequently going to gain placements from other players playing, like four-way contested Star Guardians or something like that. So again, it sucks if it happens to you, but if you're doing a good job to avoid it, you should actually benefit from this in the long run. So for standard level 8 4 cost boards, it's about 0.3 difference. For reroll comps, it's actually much, much worse. The reason is being for reroll comps, if there's one other player taking 9 of your units that you're looking for and you need to hit 9 copies, you can see how that is just a lot more impactful. Where if someone else is taking 3 copies and you only need 3 copies, a lot of times, some of these comps can be contested, even if they're not the exact same comp. So, for example, if someone's playing Protector Xayah and you're trying to play Protector Kog'Maw, your front line is going to be contested between Nico, Rakan, and Janna. All of these units are going to be contested. So even though your primary carry isn't, it's pretty detrimental. So if we go over here, oh, by the way, I'm not sure if I showed this. Yeah, 3.6. Let's go ahead and look at the other level 8 boards before I move on. Yuumi, it's about 0.3-ish. I think Yuumi is a little bit more impactful than Star Guardian just because Yuumi is kind of like your solo carry in this comp, but sure. Soul Fighter, same thing. This one's a little bit less, but yeah. It's about 0.3-ish. But if we look at these reroll compositions being contested by a Protector Kog'Maw, it's actually closer to 0.6. I would imagine this is a pretty low sample size. There's not that many players both contesting this. But I think if we look at some other comps, it tends to be around 0.6. We can see like Protector Xayah. This is actually crazy high. I think part of the reason that this is this high is just because Rakan and Xayah are your most important units in this comp. The top 2 comps in the game, Star Guardian and Project Yuumi, both take Rakans and Xayahs out of the pool. So contesting this comp in particular is even more detrimental because, especially once you get to the very end, you're looking for like that 8th or 9th copy of Xayah and Rakan, it's just really hard to hit. Just because not only is your contester taking out a lot, you have other players taking out Xayahs and Rakans. Again, that being said, I expect most of these to be around 0.6. Some are more, some are less, but generally playing a reroll comp is about a 0.6 average placement. And once again, that's going to be pretty bad. So again, if you're 4.41, being contested puts you about down here in like the 5 range. And again, we're looking at like some pretty strange compositions. Like, yeah. So definitely try to avoid that as much as possible. I've done like a little bit of math. It's a pretty complicated calculation, but I would say another way to think about the cost of being contested, apart from just like the average placement difference, is if you're contesting a 4-cost comp, for each extra player who's contesting you, it will cost you about 20 extra gold to hit your board. That's not that bad, which is why contesting a 4-cost is not that bad. But contesting a 2-cost reroll, it will take about like a 2 or 3-cost reroll. It will take somewhere between 60 to 80 extra gold in order to hit your board. Kind of depending on how many 2-cost or 3-cost you want to go for. A lot of times there's kind of these mixed comps like Kaisa, you're going to want a 2-cost and 2 3-costs. For this one, you might want like 2 2-costs, and then a lot of times you're going to want Nico 3. She pairs with Xayah. Maybe like Kog'Maw, kind of similar thing. You can go for Rakan. So you can go for like a mix of 2 and 3 costs. But again, if you're contested here, it'll cost you about 60 to 80 extra gold. So very, very important. And again, look out for players who are contesting the same front line, even if they're not contesting the same carry. 1-cost reroll. There's not that many 1-cost reroll comps. I would say the only good one is this Protector Sniper board. If you contest 1-cost reroll, it costs an average of about like 40-ish extra gold in order to hit your board. So still pretty impactful, especially for 1-cost reroll, because you want to really be online by 4-1 at the absolute latest. And that's still pretty early in the game where you don't have that much time to accumulate gold. So a 40 gold deficit at that point is just really, really, really big. So once again, level 8 comps costing about 20 extra gold if one person's contesting you. 1-cost reroll costing about 40 extra gold. And then 2-cost or 3-cost rerolls costing about 60 to 80, depending on how many 2-cost or 3-cost you want. 3-costs are harder just because there's so few in the pool. Yeah, a lot of times if you're contesting a 3-cost when you're looking for your 3-star, you're going to be looking for like literally the last coffee. Or it might even be possible that it's completely impossible to hit because there's just too many out of the pool. That's going to wrap it up on this video on the cost of being contested. I think generally everyone here knows that being contested is bad, but hopefully this will help you quantify it and let you kind of make a decision on whether you want to contest in a certain spot or not. If you have any comments or questions, let me know in the Discord, and thanks for watching.